Richie Mo'unga, welcome to the O Studio podcast.
Thank you.
Well, I guess it's more like a finally they've accepted me, you know, like because you've been just pestering me to get on here, eh? You've been just like, please come on the O Studio podcast.
I've been messaging. You're like, no, you can't. You're in Japan. We've got Cody on. We even have Quinny on. And now I've bugged you that much. I'm here.
No, honestly, man, it's a real pleasure to have you in here, bro. It's it's just good to have you in here. I know you're on a bit of a holiday at the moment, eh?
Yeah,
from Japan, a few months off.
Yeah, we just finished maybe 2 weeks ago, and then I'm back for 3 months, which is just like even crazy saying it that I have nothing on for these couple months. So just using it as time to just recover, see family and friends, and I guess do a few cool trips that I have planned coming up. A few PD and one's bucket list, watching the UFC in Perth, and like just things that I would never get the chance to do that I'm like, okay, I'm going to make sure I make the most of this before I get back to Japan.
Because would you have ever had 3 months like free without an injury, obviously?
No, never. So this is the first time, and like I've heard people rave on about it coming back from Japan season, and like I'm like, yeah, it's all good. Yeah. But like honestly, I'm in it now, and I just so happy, you know.
Yeah. What do you do? What do you do to
like just a full-time father? Like I just have no other responsibilities outside taking the kids to school, picking them up, and just hanging with them, seeing my mom, and just really just cruising. People want to catch up, and like I just jump at that opportunity. Yeah, sweet, let's catch up because I have nothing on, or I've put things on hold for such a long time over the last couple of years. I can do those things now. So
have you had a few rugby teams sort of shoulder tap you and be like, hey, what are you doing on Saturday?
Yeah. Like I've really, like I went and presented jerseys for the Stake First thing, and that was real cool for me. And then being into Linwood training. So like heaps of it's really cool because it's getting back to my roots and passing on knowledge, but also just, connecting back to, I guess, where I'm from, not just Christchurch, but also Linwood, Stack, and the Upper Riccarton sort of area.
Epic.
Did I hear Uber driving? Is that what Tim told me? Like you sort of
potentially. yeah. There's a few tests on there I have to do. Uber driving, even Uber Eats, just something as a side hustle.
Yeah.
If one of you guys are sick, I can jump in as a third for a potty.
I'm going to take you up on that.
I could just take over Timmy. I think that might work better.
Yeah, I'm there for that actually.
Yeah, definitely would. Yeah. Japan is such an awesome experience, and that season structure for families in particular is amazing. But did you enjoy it out there for the first season? I know you're at the same club that Tim was previously at, and it sounds like an amazing spot.
Yep, Toshiba, based in Fuchu, and like honestly, it's just exactly what me and my family needed. Like we just needed a new challenge. We're both from Christchurch, and we always had family and friends support around really close. But like I'm so grateful that we're able to get out into a new country, experience different things, but also be challenged as a family too. Because as you know, moving countries it's not easy, and there were times you're looking at each other like what are we doing? Honestly, like what have we done? But we've come back such a stronger unit. We've learnt more about each other, and like our love is so much stronger because of that experience. And it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, but I think it was definitely the best thing for my family and also my rugby as well.
There's something about those first few months, like when you arrive in a completely new place, like everything feels new. You can't talk to the people behind the counter at any shop, at anything. I think Soph said as well, like you guys didn't have a car for a while or bike, so you guys were like, it was like you were in that intense.
Yeah, it was just really tough trying to just figure things out. Like we're so used to having everything happen quite quick for us here in Christchurch. We always have solutions, but I think there was a beauty of going over there, and like at the time it was stressful, and it was like stressful in terms of like, what are we doing? I knew we shouldn't have come here. You know, and on the verge of tears because you miss family and the kids are playing up and they're finding it tough. But looking back now, it's just, it's so good for us to have gone through that as a family. And also the friends we've made and the memories that we've made they're just beautiful. And I think it's something that I'll always look back in this year that I've been to Japan. And I think it's always an important part in like my marriage, in my family's life, and yeah.
Yeah, there's something about just that time, together. You're in this little trip together where it's just you guys, and you're just like, we're going to figure this out.
Yeah.
And the intensity squeezes almost more out of it because it kind of galvanises you as a little team, and you've navigated something that's tough and then come out the other side.
Yeah,
I'm a
Cool for the
massive
kids
fan.
too, I think, you know, like it's sort of, it's out of them seeing you out of your comfort zone, I think sort of shows them that, like, you know, it's whether they remember it or recognise it, but I just think it's a cool thing for your kids to see, like, we're trying things and we're doing stuff that's, you know, a bit outside the ordinary.
Yeah, they definitely saw us out of our comfort zone. And, you know, it just was a real simple way of living in Japan.
Yeah.
Like, you know, to me, like you bike to training, you bike with one in the front, one in the back, and you're taking them to school. Like, it's just real simple. You live in an apartment that's so small. Like, Marley can't kick a ball anywhere without hitting something. But that's just the beauty of it. Like, you don't need anything more. And it's real simple, and it's good for the kids to see that too, you know, like you come back home, you have a trampoline, backyard, and they were really awesome in terms of that movement, and it was good for them to learn that.
Yeah, and we want to get into your family a bit later on, but like we've sort of, you know, talked about the kids there and how they've sort of, it's a different, you know, life living in Japan to here. Like, it'd be quite good to sort of understand a little bit about your childhood and growing up. Like, what was that like for you? What do you remember?
Oh, my childhood was like, I think it was just the best, like, just like any other Kiwi boy, I guess. Like, I was real, like, naughty as a kid. Like, I just wanted to be outside, do things, throw a ball around. But I just remember having, like, the most loving parents and most loving family members. Like, there was 6 of us in one house. So we just were always outside. And like, that's all I remember. It's just the love was huge in our family. My dad was really strict, and we had to go to church on Sundays at a Tongan Methodist church. And amongst the chaos, it was just kicking a ball around. And those are the sort of things I remember. And as a parent, you try and recreate that in certain ways. And I think, I'm really grateful for the childhood that I had.
I think it's kind of the same for all of us. Like, we sort of think about, like you talked about Japan being simple. Like, I remember my childhood being simple, you know, like, and, you know, we were sort of, didn't have a heap growing up, but it was like, you know, when you think about your kids now as a parent, it's sort of like, sometimes I feel that being hungry as a kid, not hungry as in hungry to eat, but like, you know, seeing something that you don't have and wanting it is a really cool trait. Like, it gives you that sort of like hunger to move forward and want things. And I think sometimes think about my kids and I'm like, you know, they're living a different life than I did, you know, and so you're just trying to think how you can sort of make sure you distill that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's awesome being able to look back on a childhood and then have like your anchor word is love. Because I think that's the biggest thing. Like, it's like it seems the most simple, tangible part of a family. Yeah. And then, you know, you think lots of people would come through and that wouldn't be the first word that jumps to mind. So I think that's such an awesome thing that you can carry on. And you're obviously a very loving husband and father now as well. But I love that that's your first word when you think about your childhood, because that's awesome.
I think it's, I guess island families as well. That's, you know, you don't have much growing up, but you work with what you got, and you feel the love. It's they were pretty strict at times, but you knew it came from a really good place. And you knew that all they wanted you to do was learn from your mistakes and be the best version of yourself. And as a parent now, you see that. You didn't really see it at that point, but that's all you want for your own kids, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And I know, like you mentioned it just before, like Upper Riccarton, you know, and actually when we were researching for this, I was sort of like, I was asking Timmy because I was sort of like seeing, I was like, what, he's got UPR written on his arm. Do you have a tattoo as well with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, UPR, and I saw it and I was like, what does that mean? And Tim was like, oh, that's for Upper Riccarton. And I was like the suburb here. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I mean, like, why is that important? How's that important to you? What does that fit in?
Oh, like, it's like where I'm from. Like, it's where I grew up. It's where I think I mastered my craft of becoming a rugby player. And I had so much like joy and happiness in Upper Riccarton, but I also went through a lot of struggle and a lot of pain as a kid. And I think I just learned so much as a kid that when I had got to an age 13, 14, like I was just like, I'm so proud to be from here. And I'm a very proud Cantabrian, and I'm proud to represent Canterbury, or when I play for the Crusaders, so proud. But I know what it's like to be brought up in Upper Riccarton, and I know the area, I know the dangers, the pressures, the trouble that goes on. So me representing Upper Riccarton is not just being proud of where I'm from, but it's saying to anyone that's from in that region, from Upper Riccarton, is like, if he can do it, like I can do it as well. And I think that's inspiration I want to have on kids from Upper Riccarton, from UPR.
Honestly, and you can see that. You can just genuinely see that. I mean, you've got it written on your wrist, you got it tattooed on your arm. But more than that, I think everyone that knows you has experienced it, can see that in you. You know, like that you've got this real sense of never forgetting where you've come from. I actually reached out to a friend of yours actually as well from UPR. I talked with Jerome.
Yeah, my boy.
And I wanted to see what he thought.
Yeah.
And what he said to me was, the thing I respect most about Richie is he hasn't changed. He's never forgotten where he comes from, started. No matter how far footy takes him or how big of a superstar he gets, he's never switched up on us. He's always been the same regardless of the situation. That's what I respect most about Richie. Like, and you can see that, like, obviously your friends think the same.
Like and like I grew up with him, you know, went to the same kindy as him, went to Riccarton Primary, and we went to Riccarton High together for the first year. And like that was the culture back then. It was like, okay, this is us, like trying to navigate through the world and through our problems as teenagers and stuff. And like it wasn't easy. Like we not saying we didn't have anything, but we all struggled the same. We all had the same pressures, and you know, he'd be waiting for his lunch, I was waiting for mine, it never arrived and stuff like that. So we'd go play rugby and throw a ball around, like, and that's the thing that I remember as a kid, and that's, I guess, why I'm so proud that I'm from here. And you look at Jerome now, he's best barber in Christchurch. You know, like I can't even get in a time with him. I've got to get in advance and stuff. So it's, just really proud. And I guess it's not something like, I'm from this hood or anything, and we're not doing that. It's just, And I even came up, a couple of years ago when I was playing for the All Blacks, I was like, fuck, should I even write UPR on my wrist anymore? Like, I've done it for so long, maybe I'll just stop. And it was at that point, I was like, if there's a time to do it, it's at this time when I'm in the biggest arena and on the biggest stage to show people.
Yeah, I love it.
And just like you did, you ask, and that's where the conversation starts.
And like if you're a kid growing up in Upper or anywhere that you kind of feel like there's a ceiling, it's such a powerful thing to see someone on that bigger stage representing places that don't often have like a massive limelight of, you know, advantage, I suppose, or people, you know, you're not identifying that that's a successful whatever. It's because we're the same, we're from the coast, so it's often like when people do well out of there, I think it does lift everybody. And so many people do, so it is like you'll be definitely remembered within, and it's probably spoken about within all households in such a meaningful way, because it is like ceilings exist if you create them. And obviously you've got a massive amount of friends over there that the ceiling didn't exist because you worked hard and you had ambition. It's so good.
And writing it on your wrist, like you talked about it being for other people, do you do it for yourself as well? I mean, like, is there something that you take out of on the field? Like, do you look down and think that on the field? Like,
like there's been big moments in games where I've looked down and I've seen UPR and like there's more than just me out there, and I'm representing more than just myself. It's UPR. It's my family. You know, my dad was a big inspiration in my rugby and professional rugby career, and yeah, I guess it's you look down, you're like, all right, let's dig deep here. It's you get to those moments and you look back and you're like, man, that's pretty cool that I was able to get inspiration from UPR. I wear it every game, and some games I won't look down at it at all, and there'll be games where I look down at it when I'm like, okay, bury my head, try and make this tackle and try not to get bumped off again, like stuff like that.
Speaking of big games, like obviously as we record this, it's Super Rugby final tomorrow night. You know, like you've obviously been there a number of times, and like if you think about sort of those key players and those sort of key roles, and they're about to go into like a big game like this. What do you think about? Are you excited for them? Are you nervous for them?
Yeah, I'm actually so excited for them. I actually was talking to Anton Leonard-Brown yesterday, just on the phone, and just wanted to pass on good luck and stuff, and just to see how they were tracking. He grew up here in Christchurch, so we're really good friends, and yeah, I'm so excited for them. And also you do get a bit nervous, sweaty palms, because you know the pressure that they're about to be in. But also excited too, because history is going to be made tomorrow. And the 15 that are out there for the Chiefs and for the Blues, they have an opportunity to write whatever they want. And that's the best thing about finals. And whether you're a favourite or you're the underdog, in finals you have the opportunity to win just because it's a final. Nothing before or after will influence it. It's the best in the 80 minutes. So that's a real cool, exciting thing.
I'd love to share something actually around that, because I think the way that you look at this stuff it is unique. It's sort of the way that you look at the game like that. And we were actually messaging leading into the finals, and we're talking about sort of who's going to step up, what's the opportunity in front of them, and the way I'm going to read what you wrote to me.
When was this?
This was last week.
You haven't edited this, have you?
No. So you said, what will make the difference is the deep belief that you're made for those moments, the mental prep, so that when you arrive at those moments, you've already been there. Then all you need to do is rise up, find margins.
Yeah. I guess, it excites me being in those positions. It's like, it's when you find out who's who in the zoo. And I've always been in a position playing in teams at a real young age of having that maybe pressure to perform. Went to St Andrews College on a rugby scholarship, and I felt that instantly. Oh yeah, he's here on a scholarship. He's the man. And then that's one thing, but then playing on Saturday, you have to perform and you have to show that to why they got you on a rugby scholarship. So, the deep belief that you're made for those moments. I really think that's real critical, that you have that confidence, and it comes from hard yakka, big training, but then that belief that mentally you've been there before, and no moment that comes up in a game is going to be too much for you.
I love that. It's a different mindset. It is, because and it's interesting, thinking about you at high school having that pressure. It's internal pressure, really.
Yeah.
It's not as if anyone's saying to you, you have to be the man.
Yeah.
But you'll put that on yourself, because you've been, there's an opportunity there for you. You're there on scholarship. You have to sort of step up. But a lot of people in that situation, it's that can be too much, or they won't want to rise, so they don't get excited about it.
Yeah.
They don't see that as okay, this is my opportunity to actually really create something here and make a mark here. And it's not just rugby in a rugby sense as well, but pressure for people is a challenge to manage, and the way that you can sort of flip it and look at it is unique.
Yeah, I think that also, the way I look at it also helps, because I've had moments where I've failed in those moments, those big moments. I've had kicks to win games at school for Canterbury, and I haven't nailed it. And it's still to this date, really bugs me that I wasn't able to execute that skill set. But the best thing I've learned is having that same energy. And like, I'll always back myself. If I missed the kick to win the game, I missed it, I would have another kick straight away. If they said you can give it to this guy to try again to win the game, I'll be like, no, I'm going again. Even though I shamed it. Like, I want to be the guy.
Yeah.
And it might seem quite selfish, but when you do have a deep belief that you are made for those moments, that's just how I think about things. Like, I want to be that person. And it hasn't always been successful, but those failures have helped those moments too.
Is it interesting? Have you seen the Shane Warne documentary at all?
No.
It's really. Have you seen it?
No.
It's really interesting because he said something very similar. And the very end of the movie, it finishes. It's like, what do you want to be remembered for? It was something like that. And he said, in the biggest test matches that we played, like the Ashes and 100,000 people in the MCG, when it came down to the last over, he's like, I wanted the ball. And he said, and that's attitude. And that's what I was proud of. And that really stood out to me. And what you just sort of said stands out to me. Because some people would look at that and could easily say, this ego. I want you. The way you said that, you could be like, I'm happy to go again, even though I missed that. But I can tell, listen to you, it's not. It's like you believe that you're the right person for that.
And also there's probably a confidence that comes from understanding the process and how much preparation you put in. That's what I'm imagining. Yeah. It's like, I think that's the biggest thing. I don't think you'd ever feel like that unless you truly believe that all of that preparation that you've done, gives you the abilities to be that person in that moment. It's exactly why if I was that person, I'm saying someone else. I've never been diligent enough to I'd be like, call someone else in. This is not me. But I think it is a trait in people, and I think that your self-belief can't come from anything other than actually truly critically looking at yourself and being like, I have done enough, more than enough, to be the man in that moment.
Did you feel like that, Tim?
I was very happy Richie was the one doing the kicking. Honestly, like, thinking about big games, like the bigger the games, the more I wanted to play them. I think that's the same principle, like the bigger I wanted to be involved in the bigger games, and I wanted to be like at the end of the game when, we might have been just up or just down. I wanted the ball, or I wanted to be on the field. I hated being off the field when the game was tight. So I suppose it's a similar principle. I definitely didn't have the moments, to like, because I think about goal kicking, because goal kicking is quite unique. It's like a time where it's like a closed skill, and you've got to like all this preparation goes in and around that. Yeah, that's a moment. I don't know how I would have wrote into those types of occasions because it's quite different. But I definitely wanted to be involved in big moments for sure.
Yeah, it's all mindset, and that's what I'm hearing you guys sort of say. And that's interesting because, you look from the outside and you think rugby's kicking and passing and running, and that's part of it. But it seems from my observation from the outside, is that the things that make the difference is not actually, it's the ability to do those things when everything's on the line, like when the moment matters. Is that fair? Like, do you guys think the same?
Yeah, I agree. Like, there's like a big part of having that confidence comes from like the hard work you do, because you can't cheat the grind. Like, you can have really good mental skills and the ability to stay locked in each moment, but if you haven't done the reps, if you haven't done the time, like, you won't execute that skill. So that is a huge part you have to get right first. And talk to my nephews and younger guys at school and stuff. Like, that's your bread and butter. Like, that's what you have to nail first. Reps for passing, reps kicking. And then after that, that's when your mental skills comes in. And how can you complete that skill, execute that in this moment, and then this moment, and then how can you be world class and execute it every time? And that's, I think, the big part that I enjoy is mentally being in a spot where I can nail it, because my focus and attention is like nowhere else. And that's because I think that is the hardest skill to execute or to get right. Like, boys love, or girls love, go shooting hoops, play netball, hockey, whatever, that's easy. Like when I was a kid, I would do that 12 hours straight. But having the ability to find time to think about the process and put yourself in that situation, wherever it is in the world, like that is really hard. And to do it without thinking about that noise that just happened or the kids that are hungry in the kitchen, like that is the hardest skill. And I think if you can get that and the training and the hard work and the grinding and stuff, that's when you see something like pretty cool. And I've seen like an outcome. I've seen it happen when I've done that, and I'm like, that's because I've got the two right. And I have got it wrong too, and I'm like, well, I didn't put in the work, so how am I angry at myself for missing it or for that pass going too wide? I didn't do any reps this week. Why am I angry? I didn't put the work in.
I love that, because you can't hide from that, You can't hide from the fact that, as you say, the hard work is the bread and butter. It is the bread and butter. It's like you've got to have done that, you know.
Can't cheat the grind.
You can't cheat the grind. I love that way. And then, but also what I heard you say there too is like hard work is also putting yourself in moments mentally that you're going to have to execute, and that's, you know, that's off the field. You know, thinking about how are you going to be in this moment, so that when you're in those moments, you can still, you know, you can execute.
You've been there before, and that's. I remember a couple of years ago we were like in meeting and stuff, and like. We had a joke and it was like, okay, who can concentrate the hardest this meeting? You know, because some of the meetings are quite repetitive and it's like, you know it all, you know, as like leaders of our game, like we know all that stuff, we've seen it already. And it was like a conversation with Tim, he's like, oh, who can focus the hardest like during this meeting? And then I remember the meeting happening and John Quinn was up there and I'm just like his mouth, whenever it moves, I'm locked in, and I'm almost like saying the word even before it comes out of his mouth. And it was because we're so competitive. It was like, bro, I nailed that. It was just, I remember that. But it's like something so silly. But that's you only get good at focusing when you practice focusing. Yeah, you know, like that's just how it is.
Yeah,
and so that was a good example of making it fun, but also it was like. Showed how competitive we were.
That whole like you've got to do extras to be extra, I reckon, is exactly it. Like you could be given the same kind of framework within a team or business, whatever it is, and you know do this. But if you're doing extras, you're going to be that bit extra. Yeah. Like, I think that's it. Like people like you and everyone that have, you know, Tim or Wells or whoever it is, has always said that. Like you are just an incredibly hard worker. And yeah, times like this, it pays off, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's, as I said, it's something that I tell my nephews and stuff. It's just like, you can't replace that. Like, you know, and you do see some kids who want things really quick. You know, they want to be there, they want to be playing Super Rugby, but they haven't done the grinding yet and they haven't been through those tough situations and they haven't learnt these things that... So that they are really well equipped that when they get to that point they can rise up.
That's it.
I want to speak about a moment actually, if that's okay, and I want to show you a video if you're okay with that. Oh no.
It's two ball.
Is it two ball? Oh great. There you go. I've heard a lot about two ball. I'll get you to watch this here.
Visualising the game-winning kick. So when that moment came, I'd been there before. There was no fear in my mind about the outcome. I just wanted to have a crack. And as a kicker, and you know, as a kid, we grow up wanting to be in those positions. And I'm glad I was able to do my bit to get it over the line for the boys.
And so, obviously, people are listening and won't. I've got to give some context there. But that was against the All Blacks, against the Wallabies. Sorry, it was 79th minute to go. Scores are tied at 20-all, and we get a penalty 40 out. And like, obviously, you kick the kick, and it goes over, and we win. But I was as pleased as probably, not as much as you were, and the whole country was that it went over. But what fascinated me and what resonated with me was what you said afterwards in that interview. And just again, for people listening, I'm going to read it out. But you said, "I've been there before. Before the game, I was standing on the 40, visualising a game-winning kick. So when that moment came, I'd been there before. There was no fear in my mind about outcome. I wanted to, and as a kicker and as a kid, we grow up wanting to be in that position. I'm just glad I was able to do my bit to get it over the line for the boys." And that's what stuck with me, because in my mind, that is the epitome of pressure. Like, it's you, there's 40,000 people watching, it's the whole country, there's 5 million people watching, and the way you talked about it, like, no fear in my mind about outcome. And it's resonated with some of the things you've already said before, but I guess my question is, like, do you feel pressure and you've managed to deal with it, or have you convinced yourself that there is no pressure?
I definitely feel pressure. I felt it walking here to do this potty, really. It was it's just little things, and yeah, it's really hard. Like, you have to be really careful as like a listener, or as maybe an aspiring footy player, when you listen to that, like, it sounds really nice, but as I said just before, like, the fear in there's no fear in my mind about outcome, because I've done the reps and mentally I've been there before. And I remember that game, I was on the bench, we warmed up on the other side, not the side that I kicked the goal, and I stood on the 40, and I literally said to myself, this kick is to win the match. There was no ball. I was still in my shoes. And I went through my movement and I just kicked the air like it was a game-winning kick. And I only really did that because I was on the bench. I was thinking of scenarios throughout the week that if I came on, maybe I got to close the game out. Maybe we need extra points. We need to score 2 tries. How do those things look like to me, and how can we get that? But yeah, obviously I feel pressure, and I think the preparation is the big part in that. And I probably didn't touch on that enough. Kids just hear, man, he doesn't fear anything. He's the man. He didn't care if it went over or not. He's the man. But yeah, there's a lot in behind those words that I think it will be really beneficial for anyone listening, whether you play sport or not. Yeah,
It's funny. Like I had I chatted with Soph like leading into this, and one of the things we sort of talked about was, what are the traits of yours that you hope that Marley and Billy take?
Yeah.
And the first one she talked about was confidence, and like it's like the confidence to step up when needed, and even just hearing you talking, confidence doesn't come from just you're just confident. It's because you've done all the work in the background to give yourself that ability to trust yourself, if that makes sense. Like it's a really different thing. Like, it's confidence off the back of action. It's not confidence for no reason. You talk about this a lot. So
yeah, I was thinking about this. We did a podcast on confidence, and confidence is 100% in action. And I think it's awesome that we actually get to talk about pressure in this way as well, because the reason you can be confident is because you are aware of your prep and your process. And that's the cool bit with this, because I know when that clip came out, I think you shared it, you loved it, you were so inquisitive about what was the thinking behind that. So it's cool to hear that you still feel pressure, but the pressure is so heavily alleviated because you can be confident in what you've done to be there. And it's such a big one for kids, because you've nailed that, because I think it is so true. So many people think they can just go out there, but confidence being you've taken action over and over and over and over again to build that self-belief to be in that moment. It's so cool. And I think because in the snippets, I think people would break that down in such a different way. So it's been so cool having you clarify that.
Yeah. And I had seen that before, and my first thought was like, man, that sounds kind of like cocky, like did it sound like that to you? It doesn't. Because I was like, man, who is this guy talking like he's the man? Like, he didn't. But yeah, that's a big part of it. Just the work you put in, and even as a parent, whatever my kids want to do in life and stuff, it's going to be the same. I want to drive that confidence, that work ethic into them, for them to have that confidence, because they know their craft. They've mastered their craft, whatever it is. They've mastered it enough for them to have a confidence when they do whatever.
Because I think what we sometimes misunderstand as confidence, if it hasn't had action, is ego. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So that you it's true confidence for you, self-belief, because you've had action. So confidence has to be, it has to come off the back of action.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest one. It's like any kid or any person listening, that's exactly it, the takeaway, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just do the work and then you'll build that belief. So good. You worked with Scotty Hansen, obviously lots, for a long period of time. And for me, because same with Wills, he's been with Scotty for so long, and no one, even, obviously watching Wills, no one for me has been as committed, I think, to Wills throughout his career, and also just had such a massive impact. Like the amount of times where, what are we now, 17 years, he'll come back and, say like, it's almost like Scotty can read his mind. Like he can kind of see and feel things in Will before Will's even 100% nailed that that's what he's seeing and feeling. Yeah. But what kind of an impact has Scotty had on you?
Oh, he's had such a big impact. Like he's a big part of like why I'm sitting here, why I've been able to do some amazing things and travel the world and actually play rugby. Like I met him during my last year at St Andrews College. I wanted to go to a club and play senior footy, and I went back to Marist Albion, and they said, no, if you want to come here you got to play Colts. And just about every club in Christchurch did that. They're like, who's this kid? He's like 70 kgs, wants to play seniors next year.
What if one of them's listening that right now? They're like, damn, what was I thinking?
So literally, and then I had a meeting with Scott Hansen. He was a Linwood coach. He said, you're good enough, then you can play with us, yeah. And that's where it started. And the next couple of years were just learning about him and him learning about me. And within those 3 years, I was like really mentally challenged. Mm-hmm. Like he made me question footy. We had arguments, he pushed me, and that's all he was doing. Like he was pushing me really hard to see if I wanted it or not. And I'm so grateful for him and his family and for the way he's been able to mentor me in the last couple of years. And then for me, on the flip side, to see him go on to high honours has been a privilege too, because as I said, you can't cheat the grind, which he hasn't. He's coached club footy. Mm-hmm. He's been over to the UK. He's been in Japan, and now he's here. Now he's an All Black coach, and that doesn't just happen. So it's cool to see that as well the other way.
I've got so much respect for Scotty as well, and I know how important he was to both Will and yourself. And so I had to reach out to him as well actually prior to this. And it's so funny when I got the message back, but. This is just you got to like, if you know Scotty, you've got to like listen to this through his voice. Yeah, but he said his commitment to his preparation always gave Richie anticipation to master the moment. He leads and serves with humility, from a boy to a man to a husband to a father. My great privilege has seen him take each step. Each time he has amazed me. I see him as family.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, eh? He's such a huge part, a father figure to me growing up when I was really young. And yeah, he's taught me a lot of valuable lessons. And I think like he'd do so well for coaching first 15s and like younger grades, because he just has a good perspective on footy. And above all else, he cares about the individual too, and just as you said with you and Heindo, and I think that's what makes him him. And yeah, it's always a pleasure. He's always wants to work, he's always missing, when are we working again next? When are we down at Rucker Park? Rucker Park it's Melbourne Park. We renamed it. That's because where all the hoopers go at Rucker Park. So yeah, he's a good man.
It's funny, like, because for a lot of people listening to that sort of stuff, it's like, oh, he was hard, And so often when coaches are just hard, that can be just it, and players don't feel that connection to them, or they don't feel like they're actually doing it for them. Whereas the unique thing with Scotty is it always feels like it's come from a place of I'm here for you. You know, I'm here for you as a person, and I want this for you. You know, and so it lands differently when someone's being hard, when you really feel like they've got that sort of that care and sitting in behind it. It's not, you know, as you say, like he was doing that when you're at finishing high school at club rugby. It wasn't just for him, for his team at that time. It was about you as an individual, because he thought he could see that you could go somewhere with that. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
He sounds like a special guy. Like I know he's worked with Will as well. Like, what do you think his superpower is? You know, like
it's funny when you see, like he just has a way of knowing what you need before you even like know it yourself. I think his superpower is that he just knows the game of rugby better than most. And that comes down to watches more rugby, and rugby all levels, rugby right across the world. The last couple of years for Crusaders, he never sent me a clip of any other team in New Zealand. It was of Leinster, it was of Toulouse. And then he's able to work outside the box and think about, how can we get better? How can I be a better coach? How can I make you better? And yeah, he's had interesting ways. It's, you know, sometimes it doesn't go so well, but he's always willing to try things, you know. I remember we were training for Crusaders, and like I just could not see any space. I was just like training, and I was trying to look for kick space or trying to play ball at the back. People were rushing up, and after training, he said, you know, I had 18 on for the other team. I was just like, why? How is that going to help me? There was no space like whatsoever. But it's just the way he works, you know.
I actually saw one of those once. Actually, it was 2021. I'd come back in, and I heard him talking to the non-playing group, and he told them all, like, I want you offside by about a metre and a half, and up on Richie. I want you to take all of space today. I don't care if you're offside. I'm not going to call you offside today. I want you to just take all his time and space away. And he wouldn't have told you that, I'm sure. But exactly the same principle, just chucking you in these different situations, see how you react.
Yeah. He's a real big believer in, like, your training throughout the week is going to set you up so well for the Saturday. You see different pictures. You can find quick solutions. And he was a master of that for me. Like, every pre-season we'll do a couple months of trying different kicks, trying different passes. And at the time you're doing kicks over your head and like bananas. But that's because he was just trying to grow my game. And like he was awesome at that. And I think that was like a real big help for me.
That's funny. I just on Scotty, like I remember this one. So I came back. It was that 2021 year, and I was just sort of watching sort of in the background, and it was like a Thursday team meeting, and there was like a new young lock who'd come into the team, and he was like, you sort of see he was nervous, and so Thursday, so anyone doesn't know, Thursday training, it's like execute, you know, it's like you've got to execute your role, like you've had the whole week prep, you know, it's about getting out on the field, it's just like get it done sort of thing, and Scotty's message was about being brave. He was like, well, being brave today, and it's going to have to be brave this week. It was all around being brave, and he asked, like, what's being brave today? And he was like, the young lot sort of like looking at the ground. He asked him, what do you think? And he started talking. He's like, stand up, son. You know, he's like, stood up and he's like, being brave for me today is making sure, like, if I don't know where I'm meant to be going, I ask the question. You know, ask the question to the guys next to me. That's being brave. You just see, it was the wrong answer. It was the wrong. You can just see Scotty's face. He was like, if you don't know where you're going today, it's too late. Have another go, son. He stands up again. He's like, being brave today for me is I've done all my prep. I've done all my
Just flipped it, eh? It was like, what's going on?
I didn't know if he was joking. I thought that guy was so smart, but it wasn't. He wasn't. He was just panicking. He was like, but that Scotty like keeps you on your toes, you know.
Yeah.
You come right to.
It's the direct. He's so direct, and I think that's like for lots of people, it seems to create. It may create pressure, but I think for lots of people, definitely Will's. It actually creates real calm because he's just cutting through a whole lot of bullshit. He's just like going straight to the heart of your fear point, and he's just like, expose it, and then you can either rise to the occasion and deal with it, or you can sink.
Yeah.
You know, so he's awesome, and I think his work ethic. I know, especially like when we just had Finn and like little kids, and they had little kids. Obviously, their kids are beautiful, beautiful kids. But I just think, like, how does he just was constantly consuming games and footage. Like when he wasn't coaching Will, he'd be like watching like Will's Canterbury games and sending him clips and feedback. And he's just amazing, the amount of time and effort and energy he puts into people. And obviously he's so well supported because Catherine, his wife, is
lovely.
Just, a beautiful, awesome, strong person as well. But yeah,
I'm
shout out
excited for
to
him,
Scotty.
mate.
He's such a good guy.
He's done his reps, is what you guys are saying. It's kind of links back to exactly how you've said it. Like it's
back when I was playing Linwood, like the way he coaches now, there's no different. Like he was coaching Linwood like it was a Crusaders or All Blacks. The same amount of prep, how serious he was, how thorough he was, the time he spent of previewing a game, cutting up clips. He used to put up these PowerPoints. There was like 30 slides in there, of maps and stuff. And it's still the same what he does, what he did for the Crusaders. And and at the heart of his personality is just care. So whether he sprayed you, ripped you out, send you messages, that was shit. Like that, like it came from a good place. And sometimes you got coaches that sugarcoat things and try and pat you on the back and give you feedback, but
you just know.
You just know. And rugby's brutal, you know. People come in, people go out. Some people don't last long, some people are there for years and then they drift off. So he's someone that will help you stay on track every year, off season, during season. He's always working, and it's the hunger he has.
It's very cool to hear. You know, and I guess that's why he's, you know, done as well as he has. Sort of, you know, one of the greats, I guess. And sort of, you know, speaking of sort of, I guess, greats and great athletes, like this really fascinates me. I don't know, there was a Roger Federer graduation speech. Have you guys seen it at all?
I saw that one, yeah.
No. It just came out recently, but it was interesting. He's talking about mindset, and what he quotes is like his success in his matches over his career. And he says, in my career, I've won 80% of my matches, but in all of my matches that I've ever played professionally, I've only won 54% of my points. So which means that he's lost almost every second point throughout his career, which is amazing, right? Because you think it'd be far higher than that. And so I guess the interesting thing for me, and I'm be keen to hear your insight on this, because he's been able to go from losing a point, you know, I put point in sort of quotation marks, to let it go and focus on the next one, and then, you know, not have that sort of baggage he's taking with him into the next one. And that's sort of maybe like, I guess what has made him great. But like, is that something that can be taught, do you think?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. The things we talked about before and about like mental skills and stuff, and how quick you can drop something and then focus on the next task. And that's something you can only get good at if you put practice into it. Talked with Timmy years ago when mental skills was really becoming a thing. And I still remember Timmy telling me, when you're trying to focus on something and you lose focus for a split second, like that's all good, like that's actually fine, but it's how quickly you can come back to that moment and focus again. And then Timmy also told me, I'm saying Timmy like he's a mental skills professional. He's here. Here's Timmy. But remember the conversation we had, and it was like, it's like each rep you can do that. It's just like a physical rep that you do in the gym. It's like a bench press, like a chin up, and that's the exact same in footy or any sport or anything. Is that your ability to stay focused on something, and if you drop a ball, if you throw a forward pass or you get penalised, there's nothing wrong with that. How quickly can you get back to the next task? Because for some people, and you still see it now, a mistake leads to another mistake, leads to another mistake, leads to him getting subbed, because it's the compounding errors, and so there's no point for him to get back into that moment.
Yeah.
And I I'm a strong believer in that. Like it's be perfect not to make a mistake, but it happens. But if you're not prepared with something to do or prepared with a process to have to get back in the thing, it's going to be really tough for you to excel in whatever profession.
Do you have a process?
Yeah.
When is he able to share it, or is it like a secret?
It's feel my feet, see the stands. It's real quick. It's feel your feet, so it's like you wiggle your toes in your boots or whatever in your shoes, and that's for me saying like I'm here. This is where I am. See the stands as seeing the furthest point of the stands in the stadium, and that's making sure that my peripherals are still open. The first thing you do when you make a mistake, you head down and you get closed up like this, and you play the rest of the game and you're just like this. For me, like, I can't do that. I can't be the best me if I'm playing like this. So seeing the stands is seeing everything and seeing out there, seeing here, so that when I'm playing, I'm open like this. I'm able to see everything and kick space, and that's just a little process for me to get back here.
I love that. And I the thing here that's interesting too is because that exact same principle overlays to everything else. You know, like when you're at home, you know, and your little one's crying and something's just really annoyed you, you know, how quick can you get back to where you need to be? You know what I mean? Or you've just left a meeting somewhere and someone's really frustrated you and you're trying to do your work and it's like that's still hanging. It's like, okay, like how quick can I get back to where I need to be? And it's like you can sit there and think, oh, why is it important to be where you need to be or be where you want to be? But for me, there's so much to that. There's so much. It literally is why the studio is own the moment, is what this whole thing is like. You can't win every moment. You can't lose every moment. It's about owning the moment, like being in the moment as well as you possibly can. Because I think if you're in more moments, you enjoy them more, you know? You're way more present in your relationship. I'm not perfect. I've got to make that really clear. Like I'm not in every single moment all the time. In fact, far from it sometimes, but I know I'm my best when I'm in more moments properly. And that's exactly the same as an athlete. That's why I love what you just talked about there. It's like, as an athlete, it's obvious. If you're not in the moment with your peripherals on, your ability to see things, you're not going to execute as well. But it is exactly the same, just in everyday life and relationships and work and all of it. It's the same thing. It's such an important skill to develop, I reckon. And it's interesting that you said you can develop it, because I believe that you can too. It's the ability to get yourself into that next moment. And
I've had that people, you know, like it's the same. You've been watching footy or any sport and like someone makes a mistake and you hear someone, oh man, he just doesn't have it in him, mate. Like he's just not him, mate. Like he doesn't have it. And like until you've been in that position and understood your own journey to get where you are, that's when you know like you can develop these like so easily. It's tough, and as I said before, it can be tougher than the physical training because you can lose focus so easy, and it gets to a point when you want to do it, it's like they're so easy to do it, you don't end up doing it. Like, you know, I always think about the mental skills and thinking about things. It's like you think that you know you have to do it, and it is so easy to do it. It's like, oh, I'll just do it later.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing about it.
Yeah.
But I've seen it. Can testify that it works and that you can grow these skills and being mindful and stuff, and especially you talk about parenting as well. That's, you know, that's when you have to really be in the moment. And I've come from trainings and come from meetings and stuff, and being able to just like reassess where you are and how you're feeling. Like, and I've learned that stuff from John Quinn. Like doing something, whether it's brushing your teeth or doing something in action where you're just, okay, well, how am I? How am I feeling? Okay, man, I'm feeling pretty average, or I'm pretty annoyed because of what happened. Okay, what's next? Okay, I'm going into my house with my kids. They're there, they can't wait to see me. And then, okay, so what needs to happen? Okay, well, change the way you are, you know, be present, and don't let that hang over you. That's gone now. Next is being with your family, and that's a cool thing about it. And I can't go on, you know, enough that how important those things are, not just as a footy player, but as a husband and a father too.
So we actually had Quinny in here the other week, and he was talking about lots of different stuff. It was really cool actually. But we talked a little bit about that sort of that Crusaders run, you know, like around that 7 years. Like when you really think about it, it's pretty incredible. Like I think there's only one team that's gone further than that, like 8 titles in a row. And it was like the Boston Celtics back in the 60s, and there was like 5 teams in the NBA or something. But for a professional team to go back to back 7 times, that's like we're just saying how amazing that is, you know, like how hard it is to even make a final, let alone win the final 7 years in a row. And it's like, there's so much to that. There's so much that was going on. But like, why do you reckon there was such a successful run there? Because you were a part of all of them, obviously.
I still don't know. I'm still scratching my head. I don't know. I actually it's so hard to pinpoint something, but I just really believe like the culture that was created, like, you know, culture gets thrown around now like heaps quite loosely, but it was culture, it was the way we did things, and it was the way we were in the environment. And like when you got a head coach like Razor, who was a master of managing people and managing a season and looking ahead, seeing possible things that might be hard for us. Like he was just a master at that, and like he was able to get a rugby team, create this vision of how we're going to talk. This is our language. These are our actions. This is not acceptable. And then he's like, all right, let's have fun, you know, like, and fun was at the top for us.
Yeah.
And when you were able to do that as a rugby team and have these connections, then all of a sudden the word care comes out. And it was such deep care. Like there's not much I wouldn't do for the boys that played in our team. Like honestly, like, you know, you almost feel like, I feel like I'm talking like I'm in a cult or something. Like it was close to it. Like, and that was the deep love we had for each other.
Yeah.
Like we would do anything and we would work our butts off. And then you come in with coaches that are just world class and the game plans that we had, and then World Cup class players. A lot had to go right to win a Super Rugby championship, and you had to have a little bit of luck. And we just got that 7 in a row, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's the bit that it like interests me so much, and obviously Tim was a part of a couple of them, and Will obviously that last one. But the thing that stands out the most, and I think because you're right, culture gets like thrown around a lot, but I think the thing that made that period of time so unique was exactly that connection, that belonging, that care, and almost the personalities being enabled to be themselves. So what was fun was because it was authentic fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think we try and kind of create culture rather than fostering and allowing it to evolve, and the personalities that are there.
Yeah.
Like I think that the stuff that I've heard of you in the space, the fun thing has always popped up. Like obviously, like just, you know, being happy in the space that you're in to work is going to have better outcomes.
Yeah.
Like just, you know, for the culture and for, you know, the results on the table. But it definitely makes me think that you were probably a big part of being yourself, being authentic and genuine, and then kind of allowing others to feel like they could be themselves and be authentic and genuine as well.
Yeah, I think Razor created an environment for me to feel that way. Like I felt I could be my true self, and I love joking around. I love having a laugh. I love like banter, like ripping someone out, like, you know, real good fun. And the other part he made me feel real comfortable was like I think I'm like a man of people, a man of human beings, and no matter who you are, where you're from, it's in my nature that I will find some connection and we'll be good friends. And like, I'm not the person that wants that, oh, he's friends with everyone. Like I am. Like when I see someone, I'll find something. And my mission in a team, especially when I'm the general in the team, I'm the leader in the team, that's why it's important to me, because I need the best out of him. I need for him to feel so welcome in this team that he can be himself, and that when he's out there, he'll do whatever it is, whatever it takes. And so that's my personality. But when I think bigger picture and what I know the team needs, that's what I like to do. I like to connect people. And I like to have fun, obviously, and I like to win. And I really love to win. And I know at some point, I know to some extent what it takes to win Super Rugby or to be successful or even have the chance to be in a final. I know some things that you have to do. A lot comes into play, but the ones that I can control, I'll do it.
It's so, that was like the perfect little segue, because when Tim reached out to Soph, when we refer to Soph on this, we're speaking about Soph Mo'unga, Richie's wife, is confusing, but she mentioned ambition, and I love this because you're such a nice guy and you are all the things that we've already touched on, you know, but I love that and she's proud of this, obviously this is something that she loves about you, is that you are ambitious, because I think it is kind of like culture and ambition have to go hand in hand, obviously. But if it's a culture built on ambition, it won't go as well. But the culture kind of fosters ambition to a point where you have to have ambitious people. Like you have to have, you know, the goalposts in sight type thing.
Yeah.
But ambition for you, is that something you think you've always had? Or is it something that's kind of like a tumbleweed? Has it grown as you have been given more opportunity and experience?
I'd say I've had it when I was really young. Like, I knew I was going to be a Crusader and All Black when I was 5, as silly as it sounds. But I was so driven, and my passion and love for rugby was so strong that even at a young age, I knew I'll do anything to get there. And then the self-belief that I had and the love that my parents gave me, and the words of wisdom and the life they spoke into me as a young child, nothing was going to stop me doing that. And that's where I'd say it comes from. And even now in teams, and I just been in Japan, and it's just always having that attitude, well, why can't we do that? Or you know, let's be the best team in Japan. Oh, but we haven't been it in 14 years. That doesn't mean anything to me. Like, what can we do now to be the best? Is it change the schedule? Is it the training load? You know, and all these things I've learnt because of these good coaches and a good structure in the Crusaders. I was able to take that over there and try and put things into a place where, not in a bossy way, but I know these things work, and I know we'll get the best out of our team if we can do that. And that's, yeah.
It's so unique, mate. It really, really is. It's there's nothing massively complicated about it, but it's like being able to like do it time and time and time again. You know, like I love that you've talked about mistakes. You've talked about you're not perfect, and these things that you haven't won, but your ability to build a culture, a culture that is aligned towards outcomes and winning, but it's so connected, you know, and has fun along that journey. You know, it's you really are unique in that sense. Like you said before, like you could be your absolute best in those roles. You felt like you could be yourself in the Crusaders. I think about someone like a Jordan Taufua, you know, like he could be himself there, eh? Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Like, and I think honestly reckon it's because like, people like yourself, so he could look at you and be like, yeah, he's our leader, he's our general, and he's being himself. Oh, I can be myself too, you know?
And like, that's just like such huge learnings for any workplace or company. And like, if you have people that are working for you, or if you're in a workspace and you're not being yourself, like why is that? Like, and I was able to see early on, okay, I feel comfortable being myself. And man, this is what it feels like when I have a vision from a team that I just want to complete so badly. I want to win. And I've had that feeling. And then you want to pass it on to other players. And, you know, and if it's in a workplace, if it's in here, if you can't be yourself because of Tim, he always,
Tim's been the little
always talks down on you and stuff. And like, no, but it's just how you get the best out of people. And it's not complicated at all.
Yeah. I agree, and like because the other personalities in and around that time too, like someone like a Franksy, Owen Franks, you know, like just work ethic, discipline. He could be himself, you know. He was himself. He didn't try and pretend to be anything else. Like a Sam Whitelock, like an Israel Dag, you know, of like fun and like IQ. Like there was a really unique group through that time. Honestly though, like if you think about from year 1 through to year 7, there's huge changes in personnel. I think by the end there was only about 7 or 8 of you guys sort of left from that sort of core crew. So that's really interesting to me too, because it wasn't like it was the same thing every year, but the culture was still there. The culture was the same. And obviously this year they haven't got to that same level. Doesn't mean that all of a sudden the culture's average and all of a sudden everyone's crap. Like I loved how you said before, there is a little bit of luck at times. Things have to go your way, but if you can't control that, all you can do is make sure you're doing everything you possibly can to put yourself in the position to be the best, you know. And I don't know, I do think you underestimate the impact that you have on culture, that you've got this ability to be demanding high performance, but then fun and relaxed and engaging and really connected to every single individual. Because you said that before, like you sort of saw it as your role to connect with everyone. And there's no better, like everyone wanted to sit next to Richie on the bus or be in his, I'm not trying to pump your tires up, sorry, or, you know, be in his mini team or, you know, because there was that combination of this, we knew we were in a high performance team, but we want to enjoy the journey here too. And that's quite a unique space because not even, like a lot of people can just have the one hat, the real high performance hat, like everything's got to be this way, we've got to be the best. Other people can be the other way, which is just we're here to have a good time. But getting that balance right from leaders setting that and instilling that, it's really, really cool.
It looked like you had, watching videos, it looked like you had a handshake with like every player, like a different handshake.
Yeah,
everyone
get to me.
I didn't get one of those.
You have to be a sort of coordination level to get the okay. I seen Timmy do some of the closed shops, and I was
He's still practicing. I see every day.
It's good fun, and this like I still think now like how blessed am I to be able to be doing what I love as a job, you know, like it's just crazy. So like how, like would be rude of me not to be the best I can or do whatever it takes to win, you know, while I'm in this position. And it's like, all that comes down to being in the Crusaders team in 2017. Like that's where I learned so much. Every year I learned so much. And the guys that were like a bit older in 17, basically people were leaving, people were sticking on, and like I was down here, I was young, and as we just sort of worked our way up, as I worked my way up because of my age and got a bit older, more experience, it literally was a copy and paste of the last year before, copy and paste. And each year, the people, the Ritos, always, when they left, there was another group, you know, another group that stepped up. So when people talk about the run of the 7 years, like I think that is so critical in the way how it worked. When Crocky and that left, who was the next to step up? When Crotty and that left, who was the next to step up? Scooter's there, Sam's there, you know, and that's why I think it worked out so well. It's not like we lost heaps of players, but we didn't really, you know.
Yeah.
We didn't really. We lost them, but the people that were there to replace them,
were they ready?
They were the perfect mould to slip in,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Lots of people won't know this, and it actually like blew my mind because we left in like 2015, I think, and there'd always been like a team song, but it was often like, you know, the Saints Go Marching On with new lyrics. And then I remember watching Moss's face the first time he heard the team song last year, and I know Tim's girls had spoken, I think they knew all the words to previous team songs, but lots of people won't know that you write the team song. And this year, obviously, that was passed on to somebody else. I didn't actually hear it. I didn't get along to anything, but that's so impressive. And to give context, it's not just like a couple of
like a chant.
Rhyming
it's a
chant.
symphony,
It is an absolute
it's
a
poetry,
production.
it's like that's what I like to call it.
I'm talking verses, choruses, bridges. It's proper good. Like what's because obviously music is a big part of lots of people's culture, and that it builds a fun. Like it often just sets the mood and tone. Has music always been important to you? And how does the team song? How did it come about?
Yeah, music's always been part of my life. My dad was like, he played guitar, played the banjo. He was unreal, you know, sitting around Carver. He was like the greatest showman. He was the performer.
Cool.
And he was like the person that would tell the stories and everyone's like cracking up and stuff. That's what I think where I get that from. But really the songs just came from, it started in Canterbury. I did them in Canterbury. And they were like a cappella. We didn't have the studio to work with. And they were more chants. And then as the years went on, Razor asked me, well, you can go in the studio this year and you can do one. So then I was listening to a few instrumentals around real feel-good songs, and that's sort of the process. And I was like, what one really pulls on the heartstrings? Or as the years went on, I was like, what's the theme of the year? And then I started to get to Razor early on. I need to know the theme, with languages around what we're doing, who's the person that we're theming on, what's the group. And he'd give me these key things, and I'd put them in the song, ready for opening night or something. So I've had a lot of featuring guests. You know, George Bauer he was unreal. Like, he's just got a voice of an angel.
So good.
And he's someone that does things, you're doing the exact same, but he makes it look way cooler. Timmy knows what I'm talking about. It's true, way. Like, you know, you sometimes find yourself getting angry. You know, you're that person at school, he's good at everything. And for no reason, you just like want to punch him or something. That's their person. But yeah, it was a cool way to bring a group together and just to sing a real good team song. Like, they were anthems, you know.
They were.
It was just like real cool
Yeah.
songs that was like a little bit sad, but then have like this rapping part and then like a little bridge for a chant. And then at the end of the song, we sing the same end that we started in 2017.
So cool.
Epic, eh? It's so good, man. It really is. It really, really is.
I think we need a team song for our studio time. Can you just put something up, Lee?
I never got my call up, eh?
Oh, did you not make the
I think
singing
you
call
heard me
up?
singing
it's
next
no
to one day.
handshake.
No handshake,
Go
no
team
singing.
It all
self.
started in the coordination. Though.
Yeah.
So doing a handshake tells you a lot about person. Singing levels, it's
Oh, fun. That sounds fun. I want to be a part of that group.
yeah, me too.
I want to
Animal.
just talk a little bit like about family, because you know, even right at the start, you know, that was just seems it's so sort of ingrained in you, and it's such a sort of core part of who you are. Like, you know, I've got kids the same age as yours, you know, and it's certainly changed the way I see the world and walk through the world. Like, how have Billy and Marley changed your perspective?
Oh man, like they've just given me a purpose for life, you know. Like, it's hard to put into words, but everything I do, they're at the forefront of every decision. And like, it's so hard now because me and my wife send each other these Instagram reels, and it's like it's on parenting, you know. You shouldn't give them this, or you shouldn't say this to them. You know, they shouldn't let them dictate all your decisions and stuff. But like, it solely is, that's my life, like my kids. And through having kids, it's able to give me this awesome perspective on life, and it's inspired me to be the best version of myself. It was the same before kids, but the saying was, be the best rugby player I can be. And all it is now is be the best version of myself. And when I say myself, it's the footy player, the father, the husband. And I'd say it's just the best thing that's ever happened to me, having kids. And yeah, I love them so much.
You can't, like, it's just, you can't even think, you just don't know until you know, with kids. It's like, you know, anyone that I talk to that doesn't have kids, I was like, that is the biggest thing that changes. All of a sudden, the things that, it's not as if every perspective changes, but your perspective on anything changes, I reckon. Like, it's not as if rugby all of a sudden isn't important, but the perspective that you can sort of overlay over top of rugby sort of changes. This was another thing I sort of talked to Soph about, actually, and she mentioned that sort of Japan has sort of changed that a little bit for both of you, like the appreciation of the little things is what she was talking about. You sort of touched on this a little bit at the start, but she said, like, it's the little things in life, like taking Billy to ballet, taking Marty to Little Kickers, just spending time together as a family. It's like, You know, that's what it's all about. Ultimately, you can be at the biggest stages, doing the biggest things, but ultimately, that's what matters most. It really is. Yeah,
it's so true. Like it's it's just really the little things. And I finished games, and last year, you know, and you lose the World Cup and stuff. It's just devastating. You know, you just given you all these years, and you fall short. And then you see the kids the next morning, and it's just like, man, who cares? Like, you know, obviously I care, but
it's like they don't. Like that, you're still the same as you were the day before. That's what the perspective that I think.
Yeah.
You know, your family, the people closest to you, when they're what they see in you isn't anchored in an outcome on a pitch. It's just anchored in who you are as a person.
Yeah.
It does, I imagine, I don't actually know, but it does bring a comfort.
It does, yeah. And it's just, you finish a big test match and you know, they humble you real quick, the kids are, you know.
Yeah, they don't care. They're just like, are we still going to Chipmunks this afternoon?
Exactly. My daughter's just recently, like, I've had to approach her as like, Your Majesty. But it's like, you think it's crazy. It is. But it's so funny that I still do it. Like, it's just, you know, it's just a little game and I got to bow and stuff. She's like, go now. It's just because I love having fun and I love playing like silly games. It just suits me. This is why I love kids and I love my own kids, because I just get to have that fun with them, you know.
It doesn't surprise me at all. It doesn't. But Soph was obviously saying exactly the same thing. She said, like, I asked, what is he actually like as a dad? You know, what's he actually like? And she said, Richie is absolutely the best husband and father. He walks in the door, he doesn't sit down, he's straight into dad mode. He's just so kind, compassionate and loyal. That's what you want. I mean, how good's that?
Don't tell my wife.
I was like,
bring a tear to my eye.
Yeah. But like,
thanks, babe.
That's, you know, out of everything, you know, out of everything that you've done, like that's to me the most important thing to hear. That's what, out of anything I ever, if I can have my wife think about me like that, and my kids think about me like that, you know, like that's the most important thing to me anyway. And I know you're not perfect. I'm sure you're not perfect all the time. I'm sure
she told us
I'm not trying to say that, but like, you know, when it comes down to it, like that's what she feels, you know. That's so cool.
It's a hard thing to balance, like, not that I put myself, you know, it's a different arena. When you say arena, it's a different field that I'm on to you, but like, you know, we were talking about ambition before, like, you know, like we really want to do a good job at O Studio, you know, but also like my core role as a dad and a husband, you know, and it's like trying to navigate that sort of knife edge of being able to be good at the thing that you want to do and that ultimately sort of helps your family. But your kids, you know, I go home at night and the kids don't care what happened, how many phone calls we made or how many studios opened, and same as your kids don't care if the kick went over or not. They care like, are we making a hut? You know, like, and it's humbling, but I find it a challenge because at the same time, going home from a day, whether it's been, you know, if you haven't had a great day, and trying to be fully present and making the hut is a challenge, you know, for the kids. And, you know, I'm certainly not perfect. Like, how do you try and navigate that? You know, like you must come off some big games, some big days, and get home and the kids are
like it was hard, like early on, you know, like you would have felt the same to me, like when you're trying to juggle those things with no like experience to go off, or you don't know what works, and it's like it's, you know, you can find yourself grinding away and get stuck at home, and you leave with that sort of stress that's in the household and stuff, and you come back with the same stress from footy. And I've just sort of found that, like, if number one priority, my family, if I don't get that right, and if I don't have the time and with them that I need to have, and I'm not leaving home and it's a mess and I'm doing whatever I need to do in the house, like, that makes me perform well in footy. It makes me train better. I can go to training and do my thing. And if I don't do it, I'm thinking while I'm at training, and I'm like, man, this, or the kid Marley, he's sick again, and like, so nailing the family thing is so important for me because it helps me become a better rugby player. And when I do that right, I can go home and do it all over again. And that's, you know, early on, I probably did like a half-assed job at parenting, and I didn't know what to do, and I felt stressed, and then I go do rugby, and it just all doesn't work out. So for me, that's the thing for me anyway.
We were having this conversation a couple of months ago about like exactly that construct of like the rugby journey and the life sort of style that wraps around it, and kind of what types of support you need. And so, you know, what type of support you can be to your family as a player, and then the family supporting the player. And we were likening it to an armour. So it's kind of like, you know, places that you need to be soft, you need to be soft. The places that you need to be hard are hard. But focusing on them as a, you know, in a dual way, you know, home and work.
Yeah.
They have to be able to be strong so the other one can be successful.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I respect the most about, I suppose, professional athletes and just people in general. If there's someone doing really well, there's someone behind them that's allowing them the space and the strength and an armour to do that. And I know that you're so lovely about Soph always, and you've obviously got a fantastic marriage, but yeah, shout out to her, because that is definitely like
100%.
It's awesome. I always think this, whenever I see someone like yourself performing on that kind of level, I'm like, what a fantastic little armour he's been built, you know? Like, it's awesome to think that you can be doing all of that. And she's obviously holding down the fort whenever she needs.
She's doing more than holding down the fort. Like, I really see, like, my wife is like the rock of our family. You know, I'm not too sure if she sees herself as that way, but that's how I see her. Like, she really is like, when the kids are sick or when they're upset, they run to mum, you know, and when things need to be done, she's the one that organises things, you know, and she's got 100 things on her mind, and she is the real rock of our family. And she's been through all the same ups and downs as myself, you know. When I lose, she loses, and when I hurt, she hurts too. And I'm so grateful. I couldn't ask for anyone better to have by my side. And things were really tough, you know. Like, early on, we had Marley. I left 2 days after for 3 months after our second, you know, to go play in Australia and over in Europe for the All Blacks. So she's so strong, you know, and I can see that in my daughter already. She's, you know, really strong. The Queen, Majesty. Queen, Her Majesty, yeah. I know. But it's just the beauty of a marriage.
Yeah.
The support that you give one another, the love that you give one another. And I've just been so grateful, and I would not be here if it wasn't for her and her love and support. Yeah.
1 + 1 = 3, eh?
Yeah.
Right? Yep. That's what it is, I think.
Does being a parent sort of make you reflect on your parents, like being parents? You know, when you've had kids, you're like, oh man, that's my parents thought about me like that.
Yeah.
You know, does it at all for you?
Yeah, like it's made me think, like, being a parent has made me realise how blessed I actually am, having the childhood that I had. Like, you don't think about much. You just cruise around. You're a little kid. You're causing trouble here or there. It's just, but it's also made me realise like how strong the love in my own household was growing up when I was a kid. And I only say that because of like how I am, like the sympathy that I feel, and like I care for people, you know, random people, you know, like you can feel yourself be in their shoes and feel that, you know, and that's all from my upbringing. My sisters are the same, my brothers are the same. We all just have growing up on love, and then the perspective of that is like, I want the same for my kids. And obviously there's a lot more challenges now. There's things that are, you know, you don't want to give them everything, but isn't that what you wanted to do as a parent? Like, isn't that what you always dreamed of, being a parent and giving your kids everything? So the principle will stay the same, and that's making sure that they understand love, and they care for each other, and the experiences we have in our house will shape them up to be the humans that we want them to be, not material things, possessions, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
A lot of what we do here at O Studio is sort of focused around, wellness. What fills your cup up? Like, I'm just listening to you speak there, and it kind of, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems like family, connection, social.
Family's number one. Like, there's no secret to that. That's my drive. That's why I get up in the morning, is my family. And to be the best rugby player in the world, that's still a drive for me. And I know I can't do that unless I be the best father and husband in the world. That's what fuels that. But yeah, I think the other thing is just laughs. Like, it fills my cup, Like, honestly, like, I'm so childish, in like a rugby environment. Like, you wouldn't believe how childish.
I've never seen that.
You wouldn't believe. Like, I'm so childish. Like, just real, like, sarcastic jokes and like real just like bad humor that just gets me going in the morning. Like, sometimes I lie in bed and I'm like thinking of things and I'm like that's how childish I am. I crack myself up and I'm just by myself, like, and I'm like, man, I can't wait to tell Timmy this. He's gonna laugh, like, he's gonna crack up.
No one's gonna get this, but I honestly, there's been probably a dozen times since then that I still think about the master lock. Again, no one's going to get it.
No.
This is so sure, but I swear to God, there'll be times I'll be walking along and I'll just think about Nate in the master lock.
Yeah,
it's just so funny.
it's just pranks and
That is, though, it's the best medicine. I think it's something that people think they have to grow out of, and it definitely is the opposite. I think if you're not laughing a lot within your day, you are you're missing out, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. I feel sorry for my kids because they're the ones that are going to cop all of this. Like, I'm constantly playing games with my son, and I just like get on his nerves and just want him to see what he does, like, how he's going to react, and and banter as well. Like, I love like ripping out my daughter about something. She's 3, but. Like, I want her to have that real thick skin and to be able to dish it back. So
it's gold.
Yeah, that is
so
cool.
good.
I want to talk about one. There's an interesting photo that we sort of came across, and it's a picture of you and Dan Carter. I'm sure you'll know it. And we all grew up in the era of sort of watching DC do his thing, but you literally went from like. I mean, in that photo, it looks like you're a fan, to almost literally filling his shoes, like he sort of left and you sort of came in, and like it's a very unique situation to go from fan to almost peer, like his equal. Like, what was that sort of stage like, or that,
What I will say is that I'm not his peer. Like, he is the GOAT. Like, there's no denying that, and I'm really humbled to say that I'll strive to be the best I can to be like him. But he's in a league of his own, and that just sort of what he's done and speaks for itself. But like, being a fan of him, and then years later being in the same team with him was just like a pinch yourself moment. And even when I met him, as I said, I knew I was going to play for the Crusaders and All Blacks when I was young. And I knew he didn't know it at the time, but I was like, man, I'm going to be playing like with you, and I'll be like in this jersey. Like, that's crazy. That's so confident. It was like, man, this jersey's got on. Like, I'm going to be wearing that. But yeah, it's been awesome. It's challenging when I first came into the scene because he's the man. Desi, he does this. He's the best in the world. And when I first came in 2015, all I thought about 2015 was, oh, how can I be like him? How can I be like him? Oh, how does he dress? How does he talk when he's presenting in front of the team? And I'm just like jotting everything down. And then in 2016, when he left, and I was a starting 10 because Slady left, Desi left, Tom Taylor and Tyler Blundell all left. I was basically just given the jersey. It's not how I thought it would turn out, but that's what happened. And then I got this rude awakening of like, I was trying to be like him the whole year. Like he'd gone, and I was like, okay, well, what did Desi do when he did this? And I had all these notes down of like these moves that he liked and how he kicked, and I even had a kicking style that was similar to his, even though I was right-footed. And it just, it was a rude awakening, losing that quarterfinal in 2016 and having to review that whole year. And I was like, who am I kidding? Like, I'm never going to be like him. But that's not bad. Like, how can I be the best version of myself? You know, it's even weird enough to see in Christchurch a Pacific Islander number 10 playing for the Crusaders. So why is that Islander number 10 trying to be like Dan Carter? Like, it's just not going to work. And so that was a real key learning for me that year. It's like just to be myself. And it was a bit rough around the edges. I was a kid from Upper Riccarton. You know, I couldn't really look anyone in the eye when I was talking, and I'd sit in the meetings and not blow my nose and just sniff away, like stuff like that. You know, that was just who I was, and that was a cool moment to be able to, like, the only way this is going to work if I'm just myself. Yeah,
such a good lesson in that for all of us.
So cool, yeah.
Yeah,
I love that.
It really is. It's funny. Like, I love that you answered that as like you know, you don't see him as your peer. Like, you've obviously, you feel like I know you've had an incredible career. You know, you've done amazing things, and the fact that you still look at Desi and think like, I'm still chasing that. That's sort of, I can say. I was going to ask you from that photo, did you in that photo were you like, I want to be there one day, I'm going to be there one day? But you answered it already. Like, because I honestly, when I saw that, I was like, I guarantee you he was thinking that.
Yeah.
So I feel like I know you well enough to know that. But like, do you think, are you, like, obviously this is, you've got a lot of years left in you in rugby. Like, I know that. But do you think much about sort of transitioning out of the game? Do you think much about sort of life after footy, or not yet?
not too much. I guess it's been a bit hectic with family and kids, and one thing I've just been working on really well is investments and making sure that the money that's coming in is getting good use with some passive income. And I want to finish up, and I'm coaching or being a rugby agent. I think I'm really passionate about those things. Like, I'm really passionate. Like, I am really passionate about rugby. And I do think I would make a good coach because of that passion and my life experiences in footy. And also the agent too is exactly the same, as having an agent myself who has been there and is trying to do things differently, is trying to think outside the box. He's come up with a lot of things for me that has never happened before, but just because of his mindset and stuff. So, yeah.
That's cool.
And obviously Uber driving as well still.
Yeah.
You know, don't write that off just yet.
Yeah, that could be it.
Don't write it off.
The biggest thing that's cool about that, and like obviously we're heading like very quickly towards this, I think. Like life after rugby is, you'll always have the same. Like, I think that's the beauty of this whole conversation, is you'll still have the people that are the most important to you, friends, family, and those connections. So I think we see some pretty like dire stats popping out the other end of professional rugby careers. But I like 100% listening to you speak today, you're so much wiser, I think, than I thought. I knew you were going to be like great, but I think you've got an awesome perspective, and you're obviously really well sort of, grounded in what's important. So whatever life after rugby brings, if it's more rugby, I think it'll be awesome. Definitely.
We've actually got a little something for you, bro. It's actually for
What's that? What is that?
It's like a...
Oh, no way. Can I open it?
Yeah, go for it, bro. Yeah.
Wow.
And the reason why it's that is, we talked a little bit earlier on around culture. Like, for me, you created a culture. You just did. You're a huge part of that. And obviously we talked a little bit about music, and music sort of being central to that cultural side of it. But like, honestly, like as a player, I think you obviously you're fantastic. Everyone's seen what you've done. There's no denying that. As a teammate, for me, having you in the team, I absolutely loved being in your team, and I know everyone that has played with you feels the same way, just because of who you are and the way you are. as I sort of touched on before, that was just a big part of who you were. But for me, more than anything, like as a man, like I definitely respect you massively as a father, as a friend. I really think you're an awesome dude. I'm just so grateful that you could come on and join us today, bro.
Nah, I'm so grateful. Yeah, obviously a bit nervous, but yeah, even Timmy, the words you've shared, I can say the exact same about you. You came into Canterbury and I was really young, and your memories and your sharing about being a father and what are the girls up to and stuff like that, I thoroughly enjoyed those, and yeah, really appreciate you. You've given me a lot too, so thank you guys for having me. I'll take these to Mali and we'll be on YouTube looking at tutorials in a minute.
Awesome, bro.
So good.
Yeah.
Thanks a heap.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, Richie.
Thank you.